Hey guys, Michael the DC Multiverse Collector here. Really excited to be bringing you this review of the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse McFarlane Collector Edition Wave featuring Starfire, Penguin and Captain Boomerang. Now before we get going, a big thanks to Head Start Toys and McFarlane Toys for providing these samples for review. In fact, to be specific, Head Start Toys and McFarlane Toys provided me with the Penguin, Captain Boomerang, and this Platinum Chase Starfire in her Blackfire getup. So thank you for that. Now this regular Starfire here came courtesy of Green Rock Comic Shop, a local Australian retailer. Awesome store. I highly suggest you go and check them out. So big thank you to Green Rock for hooking me up with Starfire, and here we are looking at this wave. Now this wave, I've got to say, when it was first rumoured and then announced, I was really excited by it. In terms of these collector edition waves, I get excited by a couple of things. When we get characters we've never seen before or never had before in the line, and that's certainly true of something like Captain Boomerang, Starfire, essential additions to a collection. Captain Boomerang, of course, quintessential Flash villain, member of the Suicide Squad, and Starfire, essential member of Teen Titans. You know, I get excited when there's new stuff, and then I saw the pictures, realized they were mostly new sculpts. Music to my ears. Really excited right off the bat. The Penguin, it's a Batman Rogue, and I'm always excited to get a Batman Rogue. We've already got a Penguin in this line. It's the Arkham City version. That's a stylized game version, so it's really cool to get this comic-based Penguin. And I've got to say, sort of from the way he looks in the box, I think it's going to be a great figure. So initial impressions are really strong. I'm excited to get these open. I'm excited to look at all of them. So conceptually, this wave is a huge win. Now, looking at these figures side on, we can see that they are number 11, 12, and 13 respectively in the McFarlane Collector Edition line. And you'll see that we have Starfire from DC Rebirth, the Penguin, DC Classic, which seems to be their designation for when it's just a classic design drawn from no particular comic book, and Captain Boomerang from The Flash, which is not that helpful. But anyway, there you go. And taking a look at the back of the box, you see we've got some absolutely gorgeous comic book artwork. Alright, so here we have this McFarlane Collector Edition wave, completely out of its packaging, everything laid out on the table, and before we look at each of the figures individually, I thought we'd just go through what we get in the box. Starting from left to right with Starfire, you will see we get the card stand and the collector's card. Now, if you've been watching my channel and seen any of my videos of previous collector edition waves, you know I think these card stands are absolutely useless. I'm not going to say that again in this video. You can take that as applying to the other card stands in this wave. I think these things are dumb. They take up budget, they take up space, and they're just not used to anyone, so off it goes. Here is the data file. You can pause that and read about Starfire, real name Coriander, which always makes me laugh. You can pause that if you want to read her bio. Coming up next, you'll see we also get a pair of effect pieces. Now these will fit over Starfire's fists. They are nicely sculpted. I am not entirely sure whether these are reused. I feel like I've seen them before, but maybe not. Let me know in the comments if these are just reused. But in any event, they're pretty fitting for Starfire and her power set, and I like the shade of translucent green. We also get a flight stand. Now, I really like when McFarlane gives us a flight stand for figures who can fly. It seems like a pretty basic thing, but you know, other toy lines don't include things like this. You have to source them from third-party suppliers. So while this is not the highest quality flight stand, there's very little you can do with it. It's quite rigid. You know, it's great that we get it at all. In my opinion, I think that is a value add. I'm never going to complain about getting another one of these flight stands, so that's pretty cool. Moving on to the Penguin, you will see we get a standard DC Multiverse display stand, and because this is a collector edition figure, you get the silver paint on the DC logo. It's thin, it's basic, it's boring, but it's nice to have. We also get a card stand, which I'm not going to say anything about, and the collector card with a nice tinfoil writing down the side, the great artwork. And on the back, you will have the data file, and you can pause that to read about Oswald Cobblepot if you wish. We also get an umbrella. Now this umbrella is exactly the same as the umbrella we got with the Arkham City Penguin. I'll show you that figure later, but this is just a straight reuse. And while I don't mind that so much because this is a pretty fitting umbrella for the job, I do wish, this being a collector edition figure, that we had got maybe an open umbrella for something different, or maybe an umbrella that looks a bit like a blade with a weapon, sort of a sharp end or something different. So understandable reuse, but given that this is a collector edition figure, this feels a little bit underwhelming, and maybe this could have just been one of two umbrellas we got, an open umbrella and a closed umbrella for added sort of play factor. So a missed opportunity if you ask me. And finally for Penguin, we get a set of changeable hands. We get a fist hand, we get a gesture hand to complement the two gripping hands that we have there on the figure. Turning now to Captain Boomerang, you'll see we get that same DC Multiverse display stand. We also get the same card stand, utterly useless, and the collector card with that very, very cool artwork and the data file on the back. If you want to read about George Digger Harkness, you can pause that there. Now you will see that Captain Boomerang comes with two additional sets of hands. Now these are really cool. So in addition to the fist hands that come on the figure, you get two gripping hands, presumably to hold his boomerangs. Let me get one of these for you here. Pretty cool. And we also get a pair of these gesturing hands for some added flair. So that's really cool. And with Boomerang, of course, we get boomerangs. Two of them, in fact. They look really nicely sculpted. They're nicely sort of designed, and I do like the sort of metallic look to them. Quite nice. They are presumably going to fit nicely into those grippy hands. We'll have a look at that later. Now that we've looked at all the accessories, we can look at the three figures here sort of in totality as a wave. They're not loaded up with their accessories here. I've just got the basic figures. We'll look at them one at a time, starting off with Starfire, who's certainly my most anticipated, I think, of the wave. It's a character I've long wanted in my Teen Titans display, and on the whole, I think Todd McFarlane has really delivered with this figure. Now, I said in my intro that I thought she was all new from top to bottom. Of course I was wrong, I'm always wrong. These legs are in fact the same legs from Nightfall Catwoman, so there is reuse there. There may also be reuse in the arms, but I don't immediately recognize them. Let me know in the comments if you do. But yeah, these legs are reused, the rest of her seems new, and on the whole though, I think they work well enough. The legs are perhaps a little bit too long, but that's quibbling. I generally really like the look of this figure, and there's enough going on to make her quite interesting and exciting. You'll see I have these effect pieces on. I don't really love these. You kind of just awkwardly sit them on her fists. They don't really clip on. They kind of just sit there, and they always feel like they want to fall off. So not a huge fan of those, but they do complete the look, and they give her some power effects, which I always like it when you can show a figure exercising their superpowers. You'll see I've got her on a display stand here. That is because she's got high heels on and she just does not want to stand up. So bear that in mind. She comes with a flight stand, so that shouldn't be a problem. But if you want to stand her up without a flight stand, you're going to need to find a spare display stand somewhere, because she's going to topple over and, like dominoes, destroy your entire shelf. Coming in for a closer look at the figure, I think overall aesthetically she's great, and I think what really works with this figure are the colours for me. I really like her skin tone. It's got that sort of alien tanned skin that I think is quite perfect for Starfire. I really, really like the purple and the sort of lighter mauve. Overall it looks really nice, that hint of green with the gem there, and in her eyes, I just think it's, on the color chart, all these colors complement each other so well, and I think she just looks really, really great. The star of the show, I think, is this hair, which is not only sculpted beautifully, but it's sort of, I'm not sure if it's sort of a paint, a spray, where they've kind of sprayed it different colors so it blends from red to orange, but whatever they have done to achieve this, it looks wonderful. And all these little wispy bits, peeling off, I think it looks great. Beautiful, beautiful hair sculpt. It gives her so much personality and so much movement. Really, really nice. Aesthetically, otherwise, it's a really nice looking figure. These Nightfall Catwoman legs have got a bit of sculpting at the knees. The joints here are a little bit bulbous at the ankle, but nothing too horrendous. I do like how there is a sculpt line here at the top of the boot. Of course, there's no swivel there, or no cut, but unlike Marvel Legends, where this would just be painted, these are in fact sculpted, which gives it some dimension and depth. Her little diaper piece here is nice. I like the wrinkles in it, I like the little paint applications, and I like how the paint from the belly button continues down into that diaper piece. And the more I look at this, the more I think this is just a modified version of the Nightfall Catwoman body. But I think it's been heavily modified. So someone let me know in the comments, what's going on here? Who is this? What figure is this? It's not quite Nightfall Catwoman. Is it Supergirl Rebirth? Whatever it is, it's a sign of good reuse when I can't immediately pick it, and clearly enough has been done to make this fit with Starfire, so I can't be too mad about that. So in terms of paint overall, I think the topography on her chest is really nice. All these lines are super clean, really crisp, not too much to complain about. Overall, it's just a really, really nice looking figure. It hasn't got a huge amount of texture, but it's got it sort of in key places, like this seam in her suit here. Just gives it a little bit of extra believability, a little bit of extra detail. I like that. Her arms are extremely thin. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like physically her arms should just be a little bit thicker, a little bit more muscular, a bit more heroic. At the moment, they just look very spindly. And I don't know, something about her joints just look a little bit awkward here at the wrist. Tell me if you know what I mean. Like, it just looks a little bit awkward and unnatural. Coming in for a closer look at that head sculpt, she looks amazing. The paint application is perfect. Those green eyes really pop. The red lips really pop. The eyebrows. There's a bit of what looks like blush on her cheeks. I think it all looks really, really good. So yeah, looks-wise, she looks excellent. Articulation, these are the Catwoman legs. So if you've seen that, you know that they do pretty much everything you want. They split, they bend, they have all the pivot and rotation that you want. It's all there. It's very par for the course. What will be interesting is to see what you can do with her head. You can actually tilt it really far forward, and it's got enough friction that the hair is not going to weigh that down. So that's nice. But looking up, yeah, she can't because the hair prevents that. So no up look. She can tilt down. In terms of rotation, 360 degrees. And a nice bit of side-to-side rock. So that's pretty solid, I've got to say. And of course, she's got rotation at the waist, rotation at the diaphragm, although it's really tight. Whew. And she can also crunch, not much forward, but a decent amount back. So you'll get her in some good flight poses, I think. Her arms go to T-pose. You've seen all this before in other figures. There's nothing new here. You know, double jointed, rotation at the wrist. Yeah, she's well articulated for what she is. She looks great. I think Starfire is a winner. I think they could have just gone a little bit further with her, given us maybe an extra set of hands would have been nice. And I wish the power effects were maybe a little bit better. But other than that, she's cool. There's nothing particularly mind-blowing about her, in my opinion. She certainly doesn't come close to the Wonder Woman that we got earlier this year, who was replete with accessories and was new from top to bottom. So she doesn't compare on that front, but as a figure in her own right, she's a winner. So yeah, so far, big recommend for Starfire. And just for a quick comparison with the Platinum Chase variant of Starfire, here she is on the right. Now you'll see it is exactly the same sculpt, but with a slightly different paint job. And I say slightly, I mean a completely different paint job. It's got the black and the silver, and you will see that the topography on the body here has those sort of jagged lines, so it's a different deco, I guess you could say. And of course, there is a blue shading in this black hair, which is equally as nice as this one in my opinion. And the elephant in the room here is that what McFarlane has done is used a Platinum Chase variant to give us what is effectively an all-new character, which is Blackfire, who is Starfire's sister, her mortal enemy. And I am really, really torn about this practice, because on the one hand, we have a Blackfire figure here who we may otherwise never get in the line. On the other hand, it's been released as a chase of another figure. So if you kind of want a Blackfire for your collection, you're going to try and hunt down this Platinum, and you might pay a pretty penny for it. And what you get is two figures that look functionally sort of identical, but this is meant to be a different character. So it's not a fully satisfying Blackfire, and it's also, you know, quite hard to get. So I do not like this practice, but the figure itself, like it's a beautiful paint job. The trouble is you could never have this and claim it was Starfire. It just won't work. It doesn't look like her. It's all wrong. It is Blackfire. So be aware, if you get the Platinum Chase of this, you are effectively getting the villain and not the hero. So that could be a bit annoying. So now let's look at the Penguin. Obviously a classic Batman rogue, an essential character for any sort of DC or Batman related collection. I think overall this is a really, really cool looking figure. I do have some gripes with it. Look, let's get it right out of the way. This is not really a collector edition figure. There is nothing special about this figure in terms of the sculpt or the paint. As it turns out there is a lot of reuse on this figure. I'll take you through that in a minute when I compare him to the other penguin we got, which is the Arkham City penguin from a year or so ago. So look, in terms of accessories, there is nothing mind-blowing either. We get an umbrella that we've seen before and a couple of hands. So extremely underwhelming as a collector edition figure, but as a figure itself in the line, really, really good, and about as good a classic penguin as you could hope to get, with a few caveats. So overall, just looking at this guy, aesthetically speaking, pretty good. I think my first thing that I noticed about this guy is this bright orange vest. I know he's depicted that way sometimes in the comics, but I feel like maybe yellow or something, or a brownier tinge would have looked better. This fluorescent orange, really, I don't know, something about it is too garish for my taste. I do wish that had been a different color. I do like the sort of blue wash on the lapel here, gives that sort of black tuxedo just a little bit more depth. That is really nice. Yeah, I think it's overall quite nice. The sculpting here on the suit is really, really nice. You'll see there's a texture to the arms. While I'm speaking about the arms, these upper arms are reused from the Arkham City penguin. So these upper arms are reused here, and as it turns out, the legs, shoes, and diaper piece are also reused from the Arkham City penguin. So again, this is like a 60% new figure, 40% reuse. It's a really nice penguin, guys. Like, it's really nice. Not much you could do to sort of improve it, I guess, from a penguin perspective. I would change the color of the vest. I would add pinstripes to these pants. I think the flat coloring just looks kind of, flat and cartoony. I do wish there was texture to them, maybe some textured pinstripes, or at least just some painted pinstripes. The shoes look okay. Like I said, this umbrella is reused. I like the lapels here. They're not too firm, but they're not too soft, so you'll get some, articulation, and it won't inhibit. So despite the fact that he's a suited character, you'll still get some movement out of him, which is nice. I think the head sculpt looks really, really nice. I love that ridiculous long nose. I like the monocle. I like all the sort of wrinkles in his chin there, his jowls. I like the wrinkles around his eyes. I just think it's really, really nicely done. And it's kind of the reason to get this penguin is for this very classic, quintessential penguin head sculpt. I should also add that this top hat is also from Arkham City Penguin, so even more reuse. But yeah, I can't deny that it's a perfect top hat, so in that sense, it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, there's just not a huge amount to say about this guy. It's the penguin, it looks like the penguin. It could have been better in some key areas, could have been more unique, I think. But as a penguin figure, it kind of fits the bill. I think where it's let down is the accessories. I really would have liked to have seen, an open umbrella, or an umbrella where the handle comes out to make a knife. I think that would have been really, really cool. Of course, we can't have the gun umbrella because WB does not allow guns. So that's a bit of a fail. But yeah, maybe a bladed weapon that you could take out, so his sword fighting would have been cool. Maybe a stopwatch, or I don't know. I feel like he's just missing another accessory to bring him to life. But as he is, he's certainly not incomplete. He's fine. He gets the job done. And I think on your Batman Rogue shelf, he will look great. In terms of articulation, he actually moves a little bit. Like, you can get those legs up. Considering he's a stubby little guy, he's only got single jointed knees. But like, it's the penguin. He's not dynamic. So all you need is just like a little bit of articulation just to give him some, personality. He's got that gesture hand, and of course the standard McFarlane wrist articulation allows you to get a lot of emotion and sort of movement out of that. The arms go up, yay high. You'll see they've kind of got this big awkward ball joint there, but in certain angles it looks fine. The head pivots all the way around. It rocks from side to side a ludicrous amount, so really nice engineering there. You can get lots of personality. Looks kind of up about that far. The hair blocks it, but he can look down quite nicely. So overall, I think if you wanted to pose this guy for some cool photos, you know, he's not going to let you down, especially, you know, given that he's the Penguin, not the most acrobatic character. So in terms of the brief, I think the engineering gets the job done. Yeah, the Penguin, in some ways underwhelming, but in some ways kind of like, you know, he nails it. Like, this is the Penguin. Pretty good. Let's bring in the Arkham City Penguin just quickly. So here is the Arkham City Penguin, a really cool penguin figure in my opinion, with like a sort of a hideous head sculpt. I think the head sculpt on the new one is just better objectively in terms of sculpt and paint, but I do prefer this sort of like sculpted fur collar here. I think that just, you know, really adds a lot of dimension, and I think the darker color scheme is kind of cooler for maybe a more modern penguin, and this is of course a more classic penguin. So it really depends, you know, what you want for your collection. Do you want sort of a grittier, you know, more modern interpretation, or that more charming sort of older interpretation? I think maybe this is overall the penguin of my imagination, but this one is maybe more interesting to look at on display. I think no matter which one you go with, you're going to end up with a cool penguin for your collection, and it doesn't really matter. It's just kind of whatever you want. So yeah, that's the Penguin. Finally, let's take a look at Captain Boomerang. Now, Boomer has kind of become a fan favourite character in recent years because he's popped up in a few things, from the Suicide Squad movie to the Suicide Squad game. Quite a character near and dear to my heart because he is Australian, and like all Australians, he is deeply, deeply irritating and embarrassing. So shout out to George Harkness. But yeah, this Captain Boomerang figure, there's a lot to love about it. It's kind of charming. There are some things I kind of don't like about it. Let's start with the obvious. So I think this cloth goods cloak and scarf, I think are really ambitious, and I actually really applaud McFarlane for kind of trying this out, going the extra mile, including a jacket like this. He could have just gone with a sculpted jacket, but he decided to try cloth goods, and there are some things I like about it. Like, I like that it's kind of a leathery texture. That's pretty cool. And I like the general design of it. The problem is that it's got that classic issue of where you use materials that just sort of aren't quite flexible enough for the figure, so it just looks bulky and constricting on poor old George here. It looks enormous, but like, I really appreciate the quality of the jacket. Like, I actually think it's a really good jacket. If it was maybe a little bit thinner and more malleable, like if it had wires here, so you could like pose the cloak out like that, or the cape out, sorry, like that, give it some movement, like flare it open, that'd be really cool. As it is, it kind of just sits here and it kind of just hangs off him like this, and it really dominates the figure to the point where you kind of can't really look at anything else but the oversized coat. I don't hate it. Like, I think it's admirable, and you know, I like the idea. I just wish the execution was a bit better. I wish maybe some wires, I think, would really go a long way to giving this coat some more personality and helping it sit better on the figure. The scarf is equally awkward, but I love that they included it. Like, they didn't need to do that. It's this sort of light cottony material. Yeah, it's not bad. But the overall effect when you look at him is that he looks like he's ready to go out in Melbourne winter. For those who don't know, Melbourne, where I live, is cold as balls. Like, it is absolutely cold as balls, and this is how I dress every day, basically just walking down the street. So let's take all the bits and pieces off and see what he looks like underneath, and we'll have a look at the actual figure. So here's Boomerang fully disrobed, and you can kind of see immediately what I mean. Like, without the cloth goods, you actually get like a way better, like, posable looking figure, more dynamic looking figure who you can get into more interesting poses, and you can kind of, you know, move him around a bit more, appreciate the sculpt, just overall way more dynamic without the cloth goods. And so part of me wishes that there were either better cloth goods, or maybe even a sculpted jacket would have been better. I don't know. What do you think? Maybe with the jacket sculpted into the arms, but I don't even know how I'm going to display this guy. Like, I like the jacket, but I think this is a more interesting kind of posable action figure, so without it. So yeah, overall, like, you know, if you discount the cloth goods, I think this is a really nice figure. I like the color blue that they've chosen for the pants, for his top. I like the bandolier here with the little mini boomerangs on it. I think just overall the color scheme is just sort of simple elegant, iconic, and then you get the splash of red in the hair on his face and the mutton chops to offset all the blue and black elsewhere and just give it a bit of spark. So I really do like that. Now, I said in my intro that I thought this guy was new from top to bottom. Again, I am wrong. These legs and this belt here are straight from the Grifter figure and the boot, so everything from the foot to the belt is reused from Grifter. Of course, it's been cast in different coloured plastic, and it's kind of not that recognisable, so I think it's really smart reuse, to be honest, and I think it looks really, really good for Boomerang. The top here, I feel like this is all unique. Like, can you let me know if this is reused from anywhere? I don't recall these arms or this torso. Certainly that bandolier there is unique. So I think, you know, it's quite respectable what McFarlane has done here. Coming in for a closer look at the head sculpt, I think it looks really, really nice. Do I wish it had more of a snarling face or an action face? Yeah, I do. So Boomerang is kind of like a sardonic character. He's usually making sort of a snide comment, or he's, you know, shouting while he's throwing his boomerangs. This face is kind of just a little bit casual for me. It's fine. It's a good default face. I kind of just wish that we had one more action face, or maybe like, you know, with teeth bared or something. It's just maybe a little bit plain for such a forceful personality. From the back, you'll see he looks good as well. Lots of beautiful sculpt work here. I really like the sculpt work on this sleeve here, the stitches, you know, these creases, texture from top to bottom, great color scheme, minimal paint, but where it's there, it's kind of nicely deployed, and a solid head sculpt. So yeah, if you want a Boomerang for your display, you can't get that much better. But yeah, overall, you can't complain about this guy. In terms of how he moves, yeah, you know, he kicks out yay high. The belt here impedes that a little bit, but he does the splits. He's got double jointed knees. Oops, he's dropped his boomerang. He can do a T-pose, rotation at the bicep. Oh, it's really crunchy, but it's there. Double jointed in the arms and elbows there, so that's nice. Standard McFarlane wrists. Can he spin all the way around? Yep, he can do that at the waist, no problem. He can do that at the midsection. You just got to be careful with that bandolier. He's got forward crunch, about that much, not too much. Lots of backward crunch, but look, as soon as you do that, there's a gaping hole, so that's kind of awkward. Yeah, like he's good. He looks good, in my opinion. Yeah, that is Boomerang, really solid figure, and of course, he's an essential character for your Suicide Squad, for your Flash Rogues gallery, so you kind of got to get him. Just my opinion. So to kick off our comparisons, I sort of thought I'd just do a little team shot just to kind of show you how Starfire will fit in with some of your other Teen Titans characters. Now, this is not the complete Teen Titans team, or, you know, there's been so many teams with so many different members, but these are just some of my favourite figures. You'll see that there is Dick Grayson, we've got Beast Boy, we've got Flashpoint Cyborg. Of course, that's not the correct cyborg for Teen Titans, but it's the only cyborg I have in my collection, so that's just going to have to do. We also have Raven and Donna Troy, so overall I think these guys go really well together, particularly if you remove Flashpoint Cyborg out of this display. I think these 5 figures go really, really nicely together and really start to form a complete looking team. So that is how Starfire looks with the Teen Titans, and yeah, I think she looks fabulous. And so for Penguin, here he is alongside some other classically styled Batman villains. Now, there were plenty I could have picked from, but I thought that here, the classic looking Riddler kind of goes really well with that classic looking Penguin. Those two are clearly designed to be in the same universe of classically designed villains. They look great together. Nightfall Catwoman, less so, but you can kind of fudge it. So if you have these 3 on a display together, I think they will look absolutely terrific. These are classic Batman villains, and I would love to get some more really classically designed looking Batman villains to go along with them. And finally, here we have Captain Boomerang alongside sort of a makeshift Suicide Squad. Now, I gotta say, in general, aside from the Suicide Squad movie, McFarlane's been really lax on the Suicide Squad team members. We don't have a Deadshot. We don't have Rick Flag. You know, we're really missing some of those key characters. You'll see here I've had to sub in Birds of Prey Harley Quinn, Arkham Asylum Killer Croc, the Suicide Squad movie King Shark, and this, you know, Boomer. I think there's a more cohesive Suicide Squad you could build. I'm kind of waiting for Todd to do a comic book Harley Quinn, maybe a comic book King Shark, another version of Killer Croc would be nice at some point, and of course Deadshot, Rick Flag, Katana. You know, there's almost an endless amount of villains you could do to fill out a Suicide Squad, and I hope we get them. So yeah, I mean, you could do this. This looks pretty cool for what it is, but yeah. Whether you're going to display your Boomer in a Flash Rogues lineup or a Suicide Squad is up to you. Let me know what you're planning to do in the comments. I think I will keep my Boomer with the Flash Rogues. It's probably what I'll do, but let me know what you plan to do. Whatever you plan to do, he'll look good while doing it. So what do I think of this McFarlane Collector Edition wave? In short, I think it's rock solid. None of the figures are mind-blowing in their own right. There's not that many new sculpts. The accessories aren't as extensive as they could have been, but what you do get are 3 highly desirable characters, all of whom match their source material really, really nicely. So if you're on the fence, I'd say pick up the ones that you feel like are essential to your collection. For me, all 3 are essential to my collection, so I had no trouble recommending all 3 of these figures. So if this review's been helpful, informative or entertaining, why not give me a like, subscribe if you haven't, it really helps me out. Until next time guys, happy collecting, and thanks so much for watching.